Okay, we're going to start by putting our name on here and your period number, and then this is where you're going to make your drawing to try to contain some of the mess. And then you need to feel the paper. You're looking for the bumpy side of the paper. One side of the paper will be bumpier and one side will be smoother. So we want to use the bumpier side to draw on. So flip it over and write your name on the back and your period number. And then after you do that, you're ready to get started. So we're going to start this with ground. Right, I've got my reference picture here, and I need to build my charcoal drawing from the back forward. So I'm going to begin by laying a ground. And remember, when we lay a ground on our artwork, you are just covering it with a tone with your charcoal. So I'm using the side of this charcoal so that I get a broader stroke rather than using the end, which would give me a liney look, and I don't want a liney look. I want a broader stroke like this. And then I can turn it. This is a good way to begin. Now I want it to be smooth like our sky is, so I'm going to take my t-shirt and wrap it over my fingers, so my fingers are like this, and I'm wrapping it over them so that I can get a nice flat surface. Now I'm using a circular motion to blend this in. It also kind of erases and smooths, and we're just going for an overall tone at this point. Okay, I'm getting it smooth. It's pretty light pressure, and I'm just kind of going for a covered look. Now, when we look at our reference picture, you can see that it's dark at the top, and the sky gets lighter as it goes down, and about a third of the way down it transitions into the buildings and the ground over here. So I'm going to try to get it darker at the top and then lighter as it goes down, and then I'm just going to leave it light down there, and I will adjust the values for the bottom as I'm building this drawing. So I'll go ahead and in the top. All right, trying to get a little more coverage at the top. And then I'm going to lighten my pressure as I go down further with this next layer. And this layer I'm going to blend with my blending stump. I'm using the torchon for this because it won't remove as much of the charcoal, and I need some of the charcoal to stay, but I might switch back and forth between the two. So remember, when you're using your torchon for a large area, you need to make sure you're using the side of it. So it should look like this on the side as you're doing it. With light pressure, blending. Okay, I'm going to go up and I'm going to blend again. You can see that first layer gets you some blending, but the second pass of blending is really going to get that smooth look. So now what I'm doing is I'm kind of targeting different areas. To make them smoother as I go. It's pretty dark up here, but it's kind of the same tone throughout, so I'm going to use my t-shirt to do a little bit of work down here, trying to get that good transition, and then some really light pressure up here, right? Starting to get that transition from dark to light. I think I do actually have the light on. Okay. So I'm getting that good transition from dark to light over here, and I might even go into it and do another layer just right at the top to make sure that I have those good levels. And that it's very smooth and gentle. Right, so now I've laid my ground and done my background. And with our charcoals, I find that it's a lot easier to build them, the drawings, from the back forward. So the next thing we're going to do is to look at the space, and I'm looking for my background and what's in the background. Now, I have a lot of cars and parking lot in the background, the furthest back, but I don't want to draw those. I don't want to get into that much detail. This is a very small picture, so I'm definitely going to leave those out. What I'm going to do instead is to draw the mountain like the mountain is back there. And so what I will do is decide about where in the picture the mountain is going to go, and I'm going to use the side of my charcoal to create a mountain shape. Right, letting the mountain shape kind of come down into this zone. Okay, and then I will take my blender and start to work with the blender, and I'll do more to make it have a mountainous tone, but this is a good part for it for right now. I can see that the mountain back there starts higher, and there's another little peak, and then it goes down smaller. So I'm blending out all of that texture for right now. I mean, we know mountains are bumpy, and I can see that it's bumpy in the reference. So I will be going back in and adding more texture in, but for right now this is good. Let me zoom in and see if I can show you a little closer. So I'm done with the top. Okay, yeah, I think that'll work. All right, so next we're going to be drawing in the building right here. And when you look at the building, it's in a view that is 2-point perspective, which means that somewhere over to the side and somewhere over to the other side, there would be a vanishing point, and this is our line that would go across the horizon, and then whatever's above the horizon goes down to this one, whatever's below goes up to this one, right? So it, like this. So that's what we're going to be drawing over here, and I'm going to start with this line so that everything has something to anchor onto. I can see that when I compare the heights in our picture, that this building is taller than the mountain, or it's higher in the picture plane than the mountain. It's obviously not taller than an actual mountain, but it appears to be taller than the mountain because of the magic of linear perspective and the aerial perspective. So I'm going to draw lightly, although as you know with fine charcoal there's no drawing darkly because it just will break. So I'm going to get this line, making sure that the top of the line is taller than the mountain. Right, I'm just checking, and I think that's about right. Maybe it's not perfect, but you know, Yeah, it's a drawing. I want it to be convincing, but I don't feel the need to make it photorealistic. So remember, at the top goes that way, the bottom comes up this way, and then this should be straight up and down. So these should be parallel to each other and parallel to the side of the page. And then this has a this top to this side has a very slight angle down. And the same with that. So I have my little building in. At this point, when I was doing my practice, I found it pretty helpful to sketch in kind of the rest of the ground while I was at it. So what we did over here is I'm going to pretend like the parking lot is grass, and I'm going to draw in the little sidewalk, which comes through here and goes to the front. And then he's going to go over this way, and then it came through here. Look, I'm making, I don't know if you can see, you got to be careful not to touch your stuff. I made little lumpies up there. So I'm going to go in here, draw that straight across, and then I've got more of the sidewalk down here. This way, and then I need to do this last little pod of sidewalk up here, and it goes like this. Don't touch the top, Miss Dorsey. Alright, so now I have the structure of the man-made things in this picture, and I think that that's going to help me when I'm doing this. Now, before I move on too much, I'm going to go and fix the sky a little. I just boop that up with my hand, so carefully, carefully, carefully. I'm going to do this. And this is where some workable fixative can come in handy. If you've got it sprayed at this point, then you won't change it as much when you accidentally land on it with your hand. So what I'm going to do next is to start filling in some of the values for these shapes that I've just created. So I have my building over here, and I'm going to, actually I'm not sure why I'm doing it this way, that's just silly. Let's go over here because I'm right-handed and I can't show you both of those things at the same time. Alright, so I'm going to fill this in. I don't want it to have an outline on it because our building, friends, does not have an outline. But I did need to have a more accurate shape than the mountain to get filled in. So here we go. And then we're going to come over here. And I'm using lighter pressure because most of the side of this building is lighter. I'll add the shadow in a little while. There he is. Let's draw in a little door. Okay. Alright, so now I have that nice shape. Now for some of the sidewalks, I can see the little lines that are happening in the sidewalk, and I want to make sure that I maintain those as I draw, and I keep them in mind while I'm adding my values, because it will make my picture look more accurate and more true to the environment, right? It's more true to Moon Valley space if I'm doing things like adding in the sidewalks that we have as close to what they look like as I can. Again, they don't have to be perfect. This is not a photograph, it's a drawing, just different. All right, so next I'm going to start filling in the grass a little bit. And I don't know if it really matters since I'm going to blend it, but I'm using a circular motion. Because I want it to look like grass, and we're just going to get the grass texture. I don't know that we're actually going to do any of the individual grass strands. You could maybe do some in the area that's closest to your the viewer. So in the most closest part of the foreground. You might do a little bit, but I would do it after this base stage is complete for all parts. That would be one of my finishing details before I'm done, because I would probably just smear it with my big hand while I was trying to do other things, and then I would be sad. So what I'm going to do instead is just kind of fill in this space. Like that, and then for back here, since I'm pretending my mountain goes all the way down, I'm going to call that a grassy area or something back here. So I'm going to treat it kind of the same. And I'm going to go in and do some of the like rocky shapes. And to do the rocky shapes, I'm using a little sideways motion to sort of scribble in these value patches where I'm trying to make it look like it has the texture of a rock. And I know that it goes up here, so I will do that. So I put the little texture on the mountain, and now I'm going to gently blend it. I don't want to lose the rough texture that I got, so I'm not blending all of it. I want it to stay mountain looking. So I'm only just blending out kind of the sides so that I can create that type of texture. But down here, I'm going to go a little bit different because I've decided I want this to be grass. And when I look at grass, especially from a distance, it looks like almost a line look. So I like to use carefully and gently at the very end of the blender, and I just kind of go sideways like this. And I had a lot of success with that on my little practice that I did. And then I'm going to do the same thing down here with all the grass. And again, when you look at grass, it's not smooth. So it has varied tones in it. And so I don't want to use my whole side of the blender and make it look like it's very, very smooth on the whole thing, because it just isn't. What I am going to do is use the blender and draw over the lines that I've made so that they get a little bit smoother, and I can always add in some more texture to them. But as they're indentations in the ground, I would like them to start sort of looking like indentations. All right, and these guys over here are going to go sideways too. Which helps to kind of make them look like they're laying flat on the ground. Sideways back and forth for it. And then I'm going to come up and do the same kind of thing for the building. Now the building, I want it to have a base coat that's pretty smooth, so I'm going to use my side of my blender and like that. And then I'm going to use the side of the blender and go like this, trying to maintain this line so that it's crisp, because buildings are man-made and you don't want to have wobbly-pobbly lines on them. So I'll go like that. Alright, so this is I'm going to smooth out my sky a little bit where my hand has damaged it, and then now I feel like it's a good point to use the spray fixative, and I'll have to make the rest of this in another video.